Welcome back. Today's topic, surrogacy by choice, a right or privilege. Helping us unpack the medical facts, ethical concerns, and societal reactions is our guest, Dr. Emmanuel Idowu Olowo-Okere, a seasoned consultant obstetrician and gynecologist and chief medical director of God's Knot Hospital and Fertility Center, Ibadan. Dr. Olowo-Okere is an expert in fertility medicine and has worked with couples navigating both infertility and assisted reproductive choices, including surrogacy. He joins us to separate facts from fear and to shine light on what surrogacy really entails, legally, emotionally, and medically. You are welcome, Doctor. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I appreciate you.
And he's super busy because we've been trying to bring him in since the news of when Ife Agoro did that. I've been trying to bring him, but he's super busy, and we actually appreciate you coming
Thank you
today.
so much.
But first, before I go on to Doctor, I wanted to ask you ladies, I mean, I'm sure you watched the video where the Diary of a Naija Girl, there's this lady who went on social media and talked about how she has no fertility issue, but she's going to use a surrogate, and there was a backlash. The crises came, even death threats in her DM. A lot of people who were battling fertility issues said she kind of triggered them. How did you feel, Ebu?
Okay, so to be honest, I'm big on to each their own. I'm really big on that. Maybe it's my lawyer training where, you know, as long as you're not contravening the law or anything, I mean, to each your own. So if she decides that that's what she wants to do, I just think it's not sensitive to put that online.
Okay.
You can take that decision in the corner of your and leave people to speculate whether it's for whatever reason, maybe because of your husband or maybe because of you. Because I mean, she's 43, she's not a child.
Exactly.
So I would imagine that even if she doesn't have immediate fertility concerns, but I would worry for my age. At that age, having a first baby and all of that. So to avoid any complications or anything, maybe if I can afford it, I probably would consider it as well. But what I won't do is having a big platform like she has, put that online, and even the tone. Again, I think the problem more was she was tone deaf because it came more if
there's
I
nothing
remember
wrong
the video,
with me.
there was a lot of
but I'm not going to carry
and
my
attitude and sassiness.
Okay.
So that would trigger people. But if that same video was delivered with
humility,
a bit of empathy, humility, that you know my age. I mean, I don't have any fertility issues, but I know my age. I'm worried. No, I don't want any complications. I'm more prone to. I'm sure she would have triggered a lot less people. You know,
us Nigerians like humble. We like women humble. So when a woman has audacity, we don't like it. DT, how about you? What were your initial reactions?
There's a way you can deliver audacity
I would say
with emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is important. You need to read the room.
Yeah, but still, I mean, it is her choice at the end of the day. You know. So, but DT, what were your?
For me, I would say culturally we are not ready for what she put on.
For what she did. Okay.
For me personally, there's nothing wrong with it. Okay. It's your choice. If you're married and you and your spouse are okay with that, please do what suits you. But culturally, with our mindset, we are not ready. And then a lot of women are also going through a lot with infertility. So she was insensitive by saying there's nothing wrong with it, there's nothing wrong with it, which means there's something wrong. All the people that are going through infertility and really desire to do that. And I don't think there's anything wrong. I mean, surrogacy, I knew a lot of women, that have gone in that direction. And I'm happy for them that they have their own children. Maybe at 50, they've been waiting and waiting and they found somewhere that could actually, if I have a friend in UK that had the twins through because they waited for years and somebody carried the pregnancy, but they have 2 girls now, and if they didn't tell you, you wouldn't know. So, but she was very insensitive. One, her attitude was wrong, but it's her choice. Whatever she wants to do with her life, her body, it's her choice.
Okay,
so that's my own.
For those who are watching and thinking, what are they even talking about? Surrogacy, which one is surrogacy now? And that's why you brought an expert to break this down. Dr. Olowo-Okere, thank you once again for coming on. Let's talk about what surrogacy really means.
Yeah, I appreciate you for bringing me to this program. Really, surrogacy is all about somebody else doing biologically what you should have been able to do by yourself.
Right.
And that is to be able to bring forth an offspring by your own self. So somebody carrying that responsibility for you. Of course, from what I can see, it's been properly trashed out. The likely ethical use, the likely, socio-cultural involvement have been properly addressed.
Which will still definitely.
Yes, which okay.
Yes.
Now, surrogacy has 2 particular types, and the first one is what we call the traditional surrogacy, in which the intending parents approach somebody else who also contributes her own egg into the process.
Right.
And so this brings up also a lot of ethical issues and a lot of legal issues. And of course, it has immediate and, lifelong impact on the family and of course on the surrogate, which I know we will still talk about.
Okay.
Then the other type is called gestational surrogacy, in which the surrogate mother who is carrying the pregnancy practically contributes nothing.
Nothing except her
womb. Being employed for the period of gestation to carry the pregnancy. So the gametes, which are the sex cells, come from the intending parents. So the couples who approach the gynecologist or the doctor with the intention to have a baby via surrogacy, we call them intending parents.
Right.
And so they are practically, and legally, the owner, or in quotes, of the child. The surrogate mother has no contribution whatsoever. So those are the two broad types of surrogacy available.
Interesting. And is this something that's become very popular? Because I know people have pointed at maybe some celebrities but there are people who are low-key who have done this, and so obviously there's still quite a lot of shame in our culture.
So for me, that's even how I even knew some of what Doctor was talking about. I knew traditional and gestational, because when I see a topic online, I'm big on research. So I don't know if you know this influencer online, Nancy Ume.
Yes. Oh,
she had a baby, the last baby through surrogacy.
And she's been open.
She was very open about it. And of course, she still had some backlash. But
the comment
because
section
our own approach came from, that's why I said approach is very important. Like being how emotional, intelligent you are, it can change the
But
game.
she has also been very open about her struggles.
No, so exactly. That's why I said that's the emotional, intelligent part.
But if Ife doesn't have struggle, she says she has struggle.
No, but being 43 is already an impending struggle.
But there are 43-year-olds that are having children.
But did they tell you the struggle they went through?
No, I know someone who's 43 and
she didn't have any issue.
And she didn't have any struggle. Which is
Because
shocking. Maybe a doctor can tell us, because I know most doctors will say do it early.
Yes.
But doctor, there are 43-year-olds. I know some people. They did not. She got married at 42, 43. She just, had a baby, got pregnant.
Well, I think what we should briefly dwell on is what are the real reasons why people would want to do surrogacy.
Yes.
What are the indications? And so, generally speaking, there in the medical parlance, we will say there should be medical and some medical indications that should exist before you say you want to have a surrogacy program done. Yes, as our society evolves, just like you have said as the lawyer, it's becoming a right issue now that, I have the right to take decision on what kind of mode of fertility I want to prosecute.
Yes.
But again, we must not close our eyes to the fact that surrogacy came as a result of a need, a solution to a particular vacuum created. So that vacuum has to be created first, and that makes surrogacy, more, rewarding and more respected. Yes, you can be hopeful in the days gone by. People were discreet about it, they were secretive about it, but you can't be open about it with a lot of empathy, and when people listen to you, this person really requires surrogacy. So, but that is the kind of openness we can put to it. Not that overtly, when there is no medical needs in the particular couple, and then, well, again, like I said, it's a lot of controversies. So, people may need surrogacy if they have, for instance, if a woman has had her womb removed for whatever reasons. If from events of previous pregnancies, maybe there were complications and during surgeries the uterus was removed. Or if some medical conditions are developing in the uterus. For instance, if there are multiple uterine fibroids, which may have distorted the integrity of the lining of the uterus, where a baby will grow, which we call the endometrium. So the uterus can be removed. Or if a woman who is already advancing in age, say from 50 and above, who has now developed maybe diabetes, hypertension. We call them intercurrent conditions, intercurrent medical conditions, which we make getting pregnant a lot of risk for our own life. So surrogacy may be considered. Or if from previous parous experiences, if the person has had bad medical conditions in pregnancy, somebody who has had severe hypertension in pregnancy, in the previous pregnancy, for instance, we call it severe preeclampsia, where the BP is, very high, and that, of course, portend a lot of danger in subsequent pregnancy. Surrogacy may be considered. So, in my own word, medical word, we'll say there must be indications for surrogacy before you approach your doctor, your specialist for surrogacy.
So, for you personally, as doctor, I can't just say there's nothing. If I came to you, for example, and said there's nothing wrong with me, but I want to. Is it?
Yes. So there must be a lie. If I have evaluated you, and I find out that your systems are okay, you are fine, then of course I can't lord it over you. That's where the right to you comes in.
So I'd advise you,
I would just advise you exactly.
Carry your own child.
Yes, we in the African setting, it's actually rewarding psychologically that you are able to deliver by yourself, by whatever route, whether normal delivery or by cesarean section, but that the fact that the baby comes from you is a lot of fulfillment. So, but if as the society evolves,
society has evolved, and people don't want to go through
because that's what I wanted to also talk about. That there was a point that CS was a taboo.
Exactly.
To talk about.
Now people elect to.
I had my 3 children via CS, and it wasn't my choice. We have talked about it before, where I'd labored for over 48 hours for the first one. It now became an emergency CS. So, but there was a point that you could never talk about that outside. It was like a taboo, like, what are you saying? But by the 3rd one, I was advised that, look, you've done this 2 CS with emergency. The 3rd one should be elective. But that's because I'd had 2 emergencies. But now I see people walk into the hospital.
Exactly.
The first one.
So
and elective.
Thank you. And they are choosing the dates they want to have their babies.
Exactly. Please,
and how old were you?
Yes.
Maybe like my 30s or 40s.
Yes, and please.
I know a 24-year-old who was here who talked about
she elected.
As
she said, as she saw the stress with the older one, that she's like,
so we will get to the point where also that surrogacy is going to be accepted.
Exactly.
Well, like I said earlier, we can draw some lines in between safety for a pregnant woman. You know, any medical or surgical procedure performed for the safety of both the mother and the baby across every culture is acceptable. But when it comes to surrogacy, we can still be able to draw lines such that it doesn't become everything, every Tom, Dick, and Harry who you will now pick up. And again, that is why perhaps we still have some delay in legislation against...
Because of the exploitative manner. Because somebody is carrying that baby.
Over time, people will abuse it.
Because a woman is poor. Oh, yeah, come and carry my baby. Let me give her $1,000.
Yes.
You might get to that point.
When it becomes so free, so
casual.
Casual. People will take it for granted and they will become careless with it. And then, of course, it really downplays the nitty-gritty of the fulfillment of having babies. So, right now in this country, it's only Lagos State that has meaningful legislation for in vitro fertilization, embryo transfer, and surrogacy in the country. And I think there are bills being sponsored in the House of Rep and Senate currently to control the practice of surrogacy. And again, we should not remove the fact that when it becomes something so, common,
normalized,
it is also possible that the practitioners too
also start using sharp practices.
they will begin sharp practices. So it will affect so many things, both those who are seeking surrogacy and those who are into the practice of surrogacy.
Right. So because is it? Which one of the? You want to say something?
I said, like, people are selling their eggs. Now we see people also doing this surrogacy to make money.
Exactly.
Some people they charge them as in very high to carry the pregnancy. So we are seeing that.
Already is getting abused.
It's really
Because people say yes, this is liberating, but then on the other hand, somebody else's freedom is somebody else's, entrapment. Because a lot of people, would you say that a lot of people who are offering to be surrogates are doing it because of money? Mainly because of money.
In fact, 99%.
Yes, most
For
of
now,
them.
that's
It's for
exactly
money.
That
So
is
that's
the
exploitative,
major-
isn't it?
Yeah, at the end of the day.
If
That's
they're being paid.
So would you
that-
be someone's
now-
surrogate?
now-
Would you be someone's surrogate?
Okay.
People who are doing it because they want money.
Okay, so
that's exploiting somebody's poverty.
So that question, you have to let me answer
Yes.
that question.
Would
so
you?
I have an aunt, my mom's younger sister, who still doesn't have a baby, and I remember it crossed my mind at some point that maybe can you just carry one for her. So I would do that for my auntie because I'm like, yeah, I love her. But then life is give and take, right? Everybody has the freedom of expression, freedom, their rights.
Yes.
So if this person is saying, I don't want to steal, I don't want to prostitute,
Yes.
but I have a
womb
I have
that
a
can just
womb
give
that is
out.
healthy and all that, and I think I can carry 3 babies, and these monies will help me raise maybe my own personal children, take care of my mom in the village, and I can make money.
Granted, but the fact is
By
that
all
if she had
means.
money, a lot of them will probably not do
They'll
it. That's what the
definitely,
exploitative side of it.
Hey, but that's
It's still
life. But
exploited.
that's
Yes,
life. That
absolutely.
means everything is that means everything is
Yes,
exploitative.
thank you. So that's my point.
Now,
So
life.
if
yes.
I can come in,
Yes.
That is the particular aspects of surrogacy we are trying to downplay.
Exactly.
Where people come into surrogacy all for the purpose of making money. Now, in fact, legally, the money in quote paid for a surrogate mother, we don't call it payment per se. We call it compensation, because really, how much
How much
can
you
really
put
be
a price
enough
on
for
it?
the risk involved in
Yes.
carrying pregnancy? In fact,
Yes.
she can actually lose her life.
Oh yes, for sure.
People who get pregnant naturally, anything can crop up during the pregnancy
Right.
or during delivery, and then they lose their life. So we don't call it payment.
Yes.
So we're trying to make people see, in fact, when we are counseling people who want to do surrogacy or to be surrogate mothers, we tell them the full length of the implications of their decision. We let them know you are carrying this pregnancy. Some families are going to be affected. Some people are already upset. I mean, they've been through a lot of stress because of this. Number 2, you yourself, you are facing a lot of risk. Recently had a case who developed very bad hypertension. Wow. Yes, around 28 weeks, we had to deliver her so that we will not lose her life. I mean, she won't lose her life because of trying to help a family to achieve their goals. So we are trying to downplay as much as possible the fact that it's a business. So people, both the practitioners and those who are coming in as surrogate mother, will not see it as a money-making venture.
Okay, so I have a question to ask. I see it online now that even people sell their kidney for money. So so what I'm just trying to say is, I totally agree, but it cannot only be peculiar to surrogacy.
Absolutely.
It cuts across.
Exactly.
Because people are now beginning to do the most.
Yes.
I'm seeing sites online,
Yes.
people, you see links that if you know your ovaries are healthy, if you know you have one kidney. If I was doing this banter with my friend, and I was like, if can you sell your kidney for maybe $15 million? I said maybe. I'm really old.
That's extra.
I have an extra one. I'll just know that I'm sacrificing some certain things in my life. I won't take it again. And we just bantered about it. I was like, no, she should rather sell her, cut out of her liver, because liver can grow back. So Kamani having those kind of conversations, or going to a sperm bank to donate blood. You know, so the thing is, generally, once the medical world opened up that path and said, you know what, in order to help people, obviously you need to compensate those that are donating to that help. Once you've opened it, the lines are blurred.
That's why regulation is so
The
important.
lines are
There's always a thin line
Yes,
between
the
what
line.
is
So
right
now it's going to
and what
keep
is wrong.
extending
Yes.
to different
Exactly.
things.
So that is why currently we are pushing for legislation, at the National Assembly to ensure that checks and balance are
That's the
put
best.
into it.
And then the surrogate
Otherwise,
mothers are very aware of the risks. They're
Right.
very,
Involved.
very aware.
Right.
Yes.
Are there situations where maybe someone carries somebody's baby and then eventually I'm like, oh, you see the baby and it's like, I don't want to give it
Plenty.
away. I don't want to give it away. This is my
It has
baby.
happened before.
Yes.
There was
Wow.
a celebrated case in the US about 4 or 5 years ago, where the surrogate mother became very attached to the baby. And so that is also where counseling comes into it from the beginning. Both the intending parents and the surrogate mother are in the picture of the fact that this pregnancy you are carrying belongs to a particular family.
Right.
You are only borrowing us, in quotes, your womb for use for this period of time. And so again, there are documents that will be signed. In my facility, yes, in my facility, the hospital attorney draws up a tripartite agreement where the surrogate signs, the intending parent will sign, and the clinic too will also append the signature.
Right.
And so a copy goes to all the three parties.
Fantastic.
So that
No
whether now or in the future, you can't come up and say,
do
oh,
it.
Yeah.
you are attached. No matter how attached you are to the baby,
Forget.
you are, that agreement
Right.
is it. And that is what is covering surrogacy now, the law of agreement. Since we don't have a very sound, sacrosanct
Once you've agreed,
legislation, so
signed.
that agreement thing keeps the relationship intact.
Right. Well, with DT, would you ever have used a surrogate? Would you ever? Is this something you would?
If I had any infertility issue, yes, I would.
Yes, if she has
If she
any
has-
infertility,
Yeah.
that is how surrogacy can
Should
be
work,
respected.
yes.
Yeah.
How about
Otherwise
you?
it will
Well,
be
I
abused.
wanted for me, I probably would have thought of IVF first and maybe adoption before
So people
before
are.
surrogacy.
I know people who
I
attack
probably
surrogacy.
would have tried maybe some other option. So surrogacy
Yeah.
for me probably would have it's an option, but probably the
Of
last
course, I
option.
People who
But
attack
if I have
surrogacy
to,
say,
I will.
why go through that means when there are children who are looking to be
adopt-
adopted?
yeah,
Why?
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
when people who attack surrogacy.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, surrogacy gives you a better satisfaction, so to speak, than adoption.
Because
Okay.
there's
Why-
an attachment.
why do
There's
you
a
think
That's
degree
your
of
seed.
attachment.
That's your
The
seed.
parent, the intending parents are involved in the process right from the beginning. And the baby is born from cradle, from the day one, into their hands.
Right.
And so the care, the nurturing becomes theirs. In fact, some of the mothers, the intending parents who can still breastfeed, can
Yeah,
actually
they do.
breastfeed.
They
Who
do.
can-
Wow.
Yes,
That's
can
what
still
happened with
breastfeed.
Nancy, the
Yes.
gestational
Yes,
one.
yes, I
Yes.
So
followed that
it will
story.
make her
Yeah.
be able to breastfeed.
Exactly.
Yes,
There are
yes.
medications we can give to start up lactation,
Yes.
or if lactation is not getting established, the suckling reflex of the baby is
Would
able to
cause it
call
to, yeah.
to call milk to come, and so that gives bonding, and it's far better
Yes,
than
yes.
adoption.
Okay.
Then
go on.
adoption, I'm noticing these days that it's very difficult to also adopt. They've
Adopt.
turned it to
The
business.
process
is
Exactly.
Because there's someone we wanted to wear that there's a baby available. When they told us now, I think they said 10 million and 5 million. May I
What?
beg your pardon. Are they selling babies? They never said, where are you? You are not in Nigeria. That's how it is. If you don't have money, you can't get one. I say,
So
I was so
people would
surprised. I
rather-
couldn't believe it. So that is also happening. Also discouraging people from being
From
able to
going
get.
to
And there are a
adopt,
lot of
yes.
children, but before you know it, they've turned it to business. When they give them 10 million,
Right.
this local government, somebody will take 2 million. So, but that's how they divide the
The
money.
corruption is
Right.
across board.
Also, like how
Absolutely.
much is surrogacy now?
Yes. How does it?
Give or
What's the
take?
cost?
Give or take is an average of say between 10 to say 15 million.
Millions.
Yes.
The whole
So,
process.
That is the whole
Imagine the whole-
process.
Yes.
Yes. It's the whole
That's
process.
a lot of money.
That's a lot
So,
of money.
how invasive is the? I won't talk about the process because for the mother who's not the one carrying the baby, what would have to remove my eggs and stuff? What's the process? How invasive is that process?
Well, it's
Very
you are right. It's a little invasive in the sense that for the intending parent who is still young, who after proper assessment, the eggs are still adjudged as very okay, both in quantity and quality. Then we commence on some medications, some drugs that will make us achieve an appreciable number of eggs. And on a particular day, after we are satisfied with the maturation of those eggs, we put her under anesthesia, and then we go into theater through some procedures. We call it egg aspiration or ovum pickup. So we aspirate those eggs, and of course, at that particular moment, the husband, if the sperm cells are also good, we must be available to produce sperm, which will be used to fertilize those eggs. So we culture the two. There are two approaches. One is the normal IVF, in which we just put the eggs and the sperms together to fertilize themselves, or where there are issues with the sperm quality and you're able to raise some appreciable number of sperm cells, we can inject them directly into the eggs. We call it intracytoplasmic sperm injection, ICSI. And so we culture that in the laboratory. We have a special laboratory for that, and there is an incubator specially designed for that. So some people, after day 3, they transfer, but generally, and that is what we also do in our center, day 5, we transfer the embryos. We'll look at them and see how good they are. The embryos are the products of the fertilization process. So those are the ones we transfer to of course, in the surrogacy program to the surrogate.
Yes.
And the surrogate too, the surrogate mother would have been undergoing some other treatment to make her environment well nourished, and the uterus well developed, especially the lining of the uterus, we call it the endometrium, to be luscious and to be very rich, so that it can be receptible to the incoming embryos.
Wow.
And so we pray, everybody goes to pray that
it works.
yes,
Do your best
that
and
the
yes.
embryos will implant. And we usually do pregnancy test after day 14,
Right.
2 weeks.
after the transfer, 2 weeks.
That's why I have a problem when people say, oh, you are taking God's work. You think it's even easy after doing all of it. Sometimes it doesn't work.
Of course,
It's a lot of
it's a lot of work, and of course implantation, even up to today, science is still not able to unravel why
How
even
that
when you have
happens.
raised very beautiful embryos, they may still not implant. They may still be rejected.
So God,
So-
at the end of the day,
At
is
the end of the day,
it's still
It's
God.
the one, it's the
Oh
Almighty
my
God.
goodness. Okay, well, that was deeply enlightening and very necessary as well. Coming up next, it's time for our life hack of the day, followed by the always spicy and spirited agree or disagree segment. So don't go away. Welcome back. It is still the big conversation, and today's conversation has been big. Big like a bouncing baby. But hey, we've got our agree or disagree segment where we're going to be throwing out a question. And of course, as you can see, we've all got our agree or disagree board, and we get to choose. Hopefully no one stays in the middle today. But here's our question, Doctor. So we're going to put a question on the screen. You've got your board and you get to answer agree or disagree. So let's hope no one sits on the fence. So our question for today is, choosing surrogacy for convenience is a misuse of reproductive science. Choosing surrogacy for convenience is a misuse of reproductive science. Okay, doctor says agree. Ebu.
I think so.
Really? You all agree? It's a misuse of reproductive science. Okay. Okay, since I'm the only one that disagrees, let me tell you why I disagree.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, everyone's looking for what's convenient. I always use the example of the remote control. If the person who decided that, let me make something that will just make us not just have to stand up every 2 seconds to change the channel, sir, we would all still be going to the TV and turning the knob. But someone decided, you know what, and I know some people call it lazy, but I love that guy. Whoever it was, I love that guy. And I think that, yes, reproductive science is there, but not everybody, number one, wants to go through the pain of childbirth. Because especially when I was pregnant, it was a whole 9 months of anxiety. Yes, I also suffered infertility before that, eventually, having the baby. But so it was whole, and nobody, especially our Gen Zs, they don't want that stress. And I feel like there's nothing wrong with, yes, something's available, but I may not want to use it. And I think that's okay. Doctor.
Well, still the same thing we've been talking about. That's a very good example, but it's a different thing when it comes to issues of bringing up offspring,
Right.
having children. It's a lot of ethical issues. And again, if we become so laissez-faire about surrogacy, we risk the fulfillment aspect. And of course, it becomes very well abused, like I said. It's like gamete donation too. Egg donation is almost becoming abused. Sperm donation is almost becoming abused. These are things that affect the nitty-gritty, the basis of a family life. Bringing up an offspring It's a thing that will affect the moment and, of course, the future of a family. And so a lot of honor and seriousness should be put into it. So we shouldn't make it so
casual.
So
all right, DT.
Okay, so for me, it is Africa. Yes. And we have things that we value when it comes to culture. This is one of it, you know. We need, except, you know, we are really pushed to the, I had 12 years of waiting also. You know, before I had my last dad, I had one and waited 12 years before I had the second one.
Oh, wow.
So I've been there, I know how it is. So we looked at different options. Should we do, should we do? But that should be a good reason for doing it, you know. We shouldn't, you know, be lazy and say, no, it's not laziness actually, but you just might not just want to do it, which is your personal. But we have to think about things that makes our culture beautiful. That is one of the ways. Family is important to us. Names that we bear in our family, there are things that we owe dearly. You know, the Yoruba people, they have their own. We have our own. So those are things that still makes us, you know, our culture beautiful. How we are related, how we are connected, how we are, all those things. We cannot allow this to erode it. If we have people that really need it, okay, it's not bad. But don't do it just. Don't take it, you know, like doctors. Don't just wake up and say, I'm not doing this
50
because
million is not casual, DT. 50 million is not casual.
Everything is not about money. Everything is not about money. We should think beyond the cash, actually. So one of those areas we should look at is the beauty of the culture. Things that we hold there, children. You know how it is now. You know, psychologically, when you have your own, you know how it is. Is there.
So
but there's nothing wrong, but what I'm saying is that.
So for me, I agree. That's why I agree with DT. And also for me, I find out that it's also how you can build character and show example.
Exactly.
So if, you know, I know that I can afford this, but I would give it I would want to give it a try the normal way. Like the regular, I mean, let me try first. So if maybe some people will wait 10 years, maybe if after the first try, it didn't work, but at least I even for experience sake, even for, you know, I mean, look at me, I said I had 3 CS. I didn't plan to have CS. I wanted to have my normal baby, normal way, but as God's plan, you know, and I experienced it the first and second, and nobody told me the third time to pick a date and go and remove the baby, you know. But at least now I have a story. I know how I know how. So when I'm in gatherings, people are talking about, oh, CS people, they don't know any work. I can talk on both. Yes, because I experienced the labor for how many hours, and I've done CS, so I can have a constructive conversation from experience.
To buttress their points, which are very, very cogent, I want to present a scenario. Having children is not just your own personal fulfillment. So when we personalize having children and we don't consider the future of the person we are bringing up. For instance, oh, you are fulfilled, you now have a child by surrogacy, everybody now knows. This child, don't forget, will go to school, will also have peers, will relate with other people. He or she will have his or her own world to live. How will it sound if this child gets to school and say, oh, my mom told me your mother gave back to you via surrogacy?
And those children, they
will say, so you can imagine the psychological impact on that child and the future. So surrogacy should be a family affair. It should be
not something we are bringing to the open and telling everybody.
I mean, I think, well, I agree with you, you know, doctor, but I think we also, because I think that's one of the reasons why some people would rather not have a child than to go that surrogacy, because they're afraid of what will people tell my child, and we need to remove that shame
if
from
it
surrogacy.
Is within the family.
Yes,
of course the child can be told by the parents, oh, this is how we brought you up. Very clear. But it will be in the child. It shouldn't be a thing he will hear or she will hear outside.
So that's why we should all educate our children that someone being a surrogate child isn't a bad thing.
Yes,
so we should also educate people out there that it's not something to make fun of somebody for. Okay, I was born by surrogates. Okay, I'll tell you that my mommy have 15 million. Did your own mommy have 15?
People even hide adoption.
Shame you.
They hide adoption too. They say they don't want to know that they adopted
their child.
And it's a cultural thing actually, because that is not how, you know, we just feel you should have your own children, and the pressure is you always put each other on that pressure.
Yes,
we'll get there.
And make people more. Me, from when I was getting married, I'm married for 19 years. That was part of the conversations I had with my husband. I said, uncle, I know that it's for companionship, but me, I love children. If after 3 years
This is just coming.
I'm
You have
game.
to get.
I'm going to go and try. I'm not going to waste. I don't understand people
I know
waiting
some people, yes,
endlessly. I don't understand that.
Yeah,
I
because
don't.
you know,
because omolong, I've got the omolong pomo. Yes.
You know,
So at least try one and then you don't know.
Yeah.
And I've seen that happen a lot of times where people do IVF or adoption and then
Yes.
before they know it's in a year or two.
Yeah,
They
They're
exactly.
having,
pregnant
you know, they're having their
Or even
kids.
adopt. I have a friend who adopted and maybe like 6 months later
She got pregnant, you
so
know?
her kids are like,
So this lady that we are talking about that made this statement online now, is she married or single?
She just
married
got
now.
married.
She just got married.
Okay, so she's not the only one watching what she's doing. The
Yes.
entire
Well,
neighborhood
exactly.
of her husband's family are watching.
Yes.
So I'm sure that it's not going to be
she doesn't
easy.
care.
We have a lot of people that will just say
She's a very strong feminist.
I'm
Yes,
not
she
saying
doesn't-
she's not,
yes.
but
Oh,
she
a
would
very
definitely.
strong feminist.
I'm happy because if her husband is on the same side, with
Oh
her,
yes, it was all
yes.
we recorded
then
that.
it has finished.
Yeah,
There's no more what
yeah,
I'm now
I'm
talking
saying
about.
please,
There's
don't
something.
Well, thank you so much, Doctor.
appreciate
This has been such an eye-opening, conversation, and we appreciate you and the work that you are continuing to do to help families, bring, children into the world, because we know children really brighten up the homes, and lots of people love them. So thank you for the work that you're doing
appreciate
with that.
So doctor told me this. So please, I
Okay.
really need to.
Ooh, you'll be
You're gonna
50 tomorrow. Oh my
so-
goodness! Congratulations! Oh, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Congratulations! That's a big
appreciate
one.
it. Yeah.
Fantastic! Congratulations!
appreciate
Happy birthday in advance.
Thank you so
Many
much.
more beautiful
Awesome.
years.
Yes,
Yeah,
many
thank
more
you.
beautiful years. Well, what a powerful, layered, and much needed conversation today on The Big Conversation. But before we do that, let's look at our wise words on the web really quickly before we wrap up. And DT, do you want to read it for us?
Okay, don't be pushed around by the fears in your mind. Be led by the dreams in your heart. By Roy T.
Bennett.
Bennett.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Well, from choice to culture, power to privilege, surrogacy forces us to confront what it really means to become a parent in today's world, and who gets to decide how. Thank you so much to Dr. Emmanuel Idowu Olowo-Okere for his insight, and to you, our audience, for staying with us through the complexities. Remember, every pregnancy has a story. Let's not be quick to judge what we don't understand. Join the ongoing discussion online with the hashtag #TheBigConversation. And don't forget to share this episode with someone who's been silently asking the same questions. Until next time, stay thoughtful, stay curious, and keep having the conversation that matter. This has been a phenomenal edition of The Big Conversation.